water, so I might as well just.
So we're going to do a session. Maybe Otto, you want to share a little bit about what's happening for you, and we can get a sense of what we're working with today.
Okay.
How are you right now?
I am okay. A little bit activated from, I guess, just like thoughts was enough this morning. Thoughts in the shower was enough to yeah. And
what was triggering your thoughts? Something in particular, or just?
I mean, it's a story that is kind of like there in the background that can get easily triggered still, apparently. So yeah, I have cleared many layers of it, but it can sneak up in there. And so it's one of those, like, I mean, obviously it's a signal that something needs to be looked at, but it's also one of those that, like, if I'm mindful, it's like if I'm not mindful enough or like grounded enough or present, then I can spiral quite a bit, and then it's kind of just like strengthening all of the different positions within the stories. So I am reminded as I express this, like the value, I wish, I would want to come back to, especially if currently, like, that is sensitive to get into that habit of doing a connecting present, sovereignty presence practice as soon as I wake up, because it's like sometimes, like, yeah, I can lay in bed, I can lay in bed for 15 minutes instead of going up, and then again, if, like, before I've even come to awareness, and that can, then take a few hours to just like get back into to feeling cleared from it, and again, it points to a deeper, the sort of whatever is the behind the trigger, like, yeah, that will need to be resolved as well, but it's also like not really helpful when sort of that mindless, like, strengthening of the position. So yeah,
that's correct. What you've just said, that just to validate your wisdom there. Can I ask you something about that first piece that comes in the morning?
You can. I would say also, just like another thing that is like present that I notice now, it's a bit similar to, I believe, the last time I was in the group call. And it's another one, would I have another hour here, I would clear myself of it enough to be like a little bit more in open and in gratitude. But it's this like bitterness, and in some, it's related to a few different, let's call it external things, but so in one sense, like, and I can see it more clearly, I have really, partly by avoiding also really fully going into it perhaps, but they say that, like, resentment is like, eating poison and trying to have someone, and it's, I've really, I can really see that now, and especially the part of me that have a blind spot to really looking how I've avoided, especially like some anger feelings. It's like I haven't been able to move through the other layers because I haven't fully allowed myself to really feel the deep, like, anger and also hurt that is part of one story. There's also like a broader bitterness of, like, that I felt is like a little bit of what comes up now and what came up the last time. I think it was present in that group call with the last time I was present. It's almost a little bit of like, oh, what's the point?
Yeah.
And again, it's definitely not present all the time. And again, I could have, been in another state, but it is present right now. And I'm not fully attached with it, but it's definitely there. And it's almost like it's a bit challenging also then for the ego or whatever, for the I to meet that, because it's like, yeah, the part of my mind that can just be like so amazed that my path has taken me to where some of these things have, you know, come back or strengthened, and I'm almost a bit like shocked of like, because there used to be quite a bit of connection and trust and all of that, and now this like bitterness towards, even towards the divine, you know, and not trusting and
Well,
so yeah.
I think that's actually normal. You know, we don't expect it. We think, oh, you know, I've just cycled through and I've healed this and I've cultivated this nice state of consciousness, and, you know, I'm oriented in a different way. And then we get close to the deeper layer, and everything, firstly, all of our methods and skills and everything we know is like, I can't find it, you know, and, you know, so you get lost again. And, you know, the idea of doing groups and having kind of support people around us is really to help us remember, because when we're in that state, we cannot see the light. And, you know, this, what's the point? This was like my default state for such a long time. I had so much resentment. So I used to think I was the queen of poor me. And, you know, so it's cyclical. And I empathize, and, you know, everything you say about it is correct. You know, you have to, the I doesn't want to go there. It's attached to, you know, what's the point, or, you know, some position. So yeah, I get it. Not easy. You know, these imprints are so compelling. And so I was interested in your morning. It's like when you wake up, there's a moment, it's a moment before your brain is kind of like activated. There's a moment, there's a little window. And it's like at that place, and I think in one of my videos or diagrams, I talk about the assemblage point. So when you wake up, there's a moment before you assemble, before you become Otto in the world.
Yeah.
And it's a moment of, it's like the bridge between where you were asleep and before you put on the clothes of Otto, you know, the default situation. There's this little window, and it's a place that I've used a lot in my practice. And it's you can watch that you can watch that identity assembling. So, you know, it's not so much just practicing sovereignty as a coping thing so that you don't assemble into that Otto, but it's really the curiosity again. You know, not to navigate avoiding him or falling into him, and not to have an agenda, but really just the curiosity of what's happening at this moment, what's happening, you know, at that moment, just before you become pulled into that structure, and what's pulling you into it. And, you know, all of those are like little windows, or, you know, I think of like, you know, a movie reel. They're like little frames that have lots of information in them. And it's your curiosity that will, you know, but what you're saying is really, I get that when, you know, when you wake up, there's this force that kind of pulls you into that state. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's different, like the whatever, you know, part of one's personal story, you know, one has identified with, or sort of how triggering that is. It might be just as simple as like, oh, like, you know, I have a lot of stuff to do today, and there's a little bit of like stress or like sense of lack of time activation, but it might not be more than that. But so it depends a little bit, and yeah, this particular story might not always become activated when, you know, it goes into that sort of, you know, default state.
Yes.
But this morning it did, and so I could touch upon that particular trigger as well. There was just something else that came up. Well, I used to remember there was a time a few months ago when perhaps when I had been a little bit more consistent in my daily practice, and in general, you know, whatever the circumstances were, but where it would come much more naturally. Like I would wake up and I would be aware, and I would also be like, oh, I'm aware. Like, you know, maybe not I'm aware, but there would be a sort of awareness of it that would have me sort of more naturally not slipping into it, and that maybe naturally that curiousness was there. But and I can see, you know, some things that would be helpful to, you know, to have that come more naturally, but perhaps it's also just a matter of, you know, setting an intention to explore that as soon as I wake up, maybe have a reminder on
Yeah.
that.
So you're the skilled version of you, you know, look, because I know you've been dancing with your practice between, and everybody in the group I invite to play with that, because who's practicing and then not practicing, and, you know, getting some balance in the dynamic of that dance. But, you know, when that, when you had the skilled version of you because of your practice, you know, the awareness came up and you could feel, you know, okay, this path, this downward spiraling path with the thought is kind of calling me, but I can see it, and so I don't have to go there. So, you know, this is inside that awareness, inside it, entangled with it, is a sense of I who's managing not going there. And there's no curiosity in that. There's a coping strategy that is like, you know, I know where that takes me. I don't want to go there. So, you know, there's a sense of I in there that's entangled. And the curiosity, you know, at the mental level is really very, very limited, because at the mental level, we're identified and oriented as something and someone. And that one is like, I don't want it. I don't want that. I want that, you know. So it's really, you know, this practice of stillness that allows that kind of ongoing ego death to be, the curiosity to lead you to that ongoing ego death in the moment, you know. So in some sort of crazy wisdom way, is like practicing wasn't taking you toward the integration of that dark thing that was coming at you in the morning. And not practicing is like, well, now I don't even have the coping strategy to prevent going there sometimes. Right. And I get sucked down into it. So neither strategy was working in your practice.
Right.
Because the idea is to heal it at the causal level. So to see what is the origin of that arising, both the experience and the experiencer. And it's only curiosity that can help you choose. Yeah. And this is, you know, it's kind of like whether you're practicing or not practicing, that it's helpful, you know, to have the contrast of those two ways of practice, because one is more masculine and one is more feminine. And there's a balance point in that also, but there's value sometimes in being in the masculine kind of practice where you have, you know, a rhythm and a structure, because it cultivates a power. And there's the value in the opposite, where you just let go and you notice whatever you notice. Yeah. Great conversation. So is there, I'm curious in the conversation. So I get that, you know, it's about, energetically, it's about bitterness or a position, you know, of poor me, or, you know, me in separation with my story. But is there a specific kind of narrative that is holding the energy around that? What is the story?
Yeah, currently it is. Like, again, there's this bigger one, you know, just towards divine and being like, come on, like, you know, but that, beyond that one, and again, that's not always present. Fortunately, I can tap into where I can really sense, you know, the eternal and, you know, love and support and grace that is there, you know. So it's not, but it comes up. But anyway, yeah, the story, I can notice that there is like, there it comes up a little bit of, you know, this like wanting assurance that this part of my share will, you know, which of course it will, stay within the, you know, current group that is here, but I'm just aware that that comes up as a subtle like resistance as I go into a little bit more personal. So it's connected to my ex-partner, and I'll try to start it short, because otherwise I could make it a long story, and that is not probably neither necessary or yeah, helpful. But
so Otto, before you begin,
yes.
I want to invite you to feel yourself sharing the story,
Yeah.
and make the feeling and the connection to the felt sense as you're speaking it, make that the first priority. So if you need to pause and, you know, reconnect, please do so, because that's very valuable. Because there's a gift when we share, you know, firstly that I'm listening and, you know, I'm feeling what's happening for you. But there's also a gift when you experience yourself sharing, and that I don't want you to miss that. So make that your practice for right now. Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, great.
I'll take a moment.
Yes.
I can sense, I'm gonna go in a little bit more, but I can sense that there is enough already moving with me that I could go into, yeah.
So,
so I don't know even if the story is relevant. There's just like enough.
Yeah, great. So let the story and the narrative pop in when it wants to. Yeah, but let's make, again, the priority the felt sense, because it's changing as you're just sitting here with the idea that I'm going to tell my story. It's already, you know, bringing information into your field, and it's what I'm inviting for you as you ground in, allowing, and orienting to this as a sacred connection, as a journey of discovery, as a willingness to become new, just feeling your way into those kinds of humbleness places. And feeling if that's challenging, and there's the pull to the story and the storyteller, just noticing whatever you notice.
Yeah, I'm currently, there's more, but I'm noticing at the forefront, I'm noticing like two almost like opposing me's, I guess, or eyes, I don't know. Or one is like, is the one that is like ready to like cry and kind of like, you know, there might be, you know, quite a bit of like victim or, you know, part of that hurt. There is like that sort of part. And then there is another one that like feels like shame around that. It's like it's almost like it says it has shame for being in a victim story. It's like it judges.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that
Yeah.
judges me that I'm a victim in the first place.
Yeah.
It's like,
So
and then whatever, like the spiritual ego of like blah blah blah. I shouldn't be a victim anymore.
yeah, that's what I got too. So the one who is ready to cry, the one who was telling me about the one who was ready to cry, was already kind of labeling it and knowing it, you know, was saying, you know, I could go there, but then, you know, that's what victims do, and, you know, da 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 kind of thing. Yeah. And he's blocking the emotional release. So, firstly, I want you to feel at some point both of these in relation to where they live within the field of you, in relation to your body. So, first, we start with the one who wants to cry. So, there's you know, he's looking from somewhere. There's a place that he's here. He's here. He wants to cry. So you're feeling the whole bubble of you and just sensing into his unique vibe. The sense of I who wants to cry. He's a bit worried about crying because he doesn't think it's okay or doesn't feel safe or something like that. Not allowed. So I feel a very much younger version of you that wasn't able to cry. The external forces. So I really want to sit with that a little bit, because if you could externalize the judge just for a moment, be the one who is ready to cry, but feel something outside you, the judge, that says, you know, what's the matter with you? You're just being a victim, or whatever it's saying. It's opposing you, it's shaming you. So make that voice as if it's outside you. Just feel it somewhere in your bubble in relation to your body. And just focus on being the one who is ready to cry.
And you're saying like become aware of it and become aware of its location, and then kind of like, you know, let go of the focus of it and more coming to the.
Yeah, I think it's good to do one at the time. There's a relational dynamic between them that's important.
Right.
And my invitation is to just be the one who wants to cry. And there's an internalization from an external voice, like who knows where, back in time. There's something somewhere in that happened to you that gave you the information. It's not okay to be a victim. It's not okay to cry. You're a man. We don't need this sadness here. Yeah. So I don't know where you got that message, but somewhere you got that message. Maybe it's ancestral, maybe it's very old. I don't know. But just to keep some clarity about working on one at the time, I want you to allow that as if there's energy coming at you with that energy. You know it's not okay to cry. And so be the one who wants to cry, but you're also feeling something that's coming at you that says, no, it's not okay. It's not safe to cry, or you won't be loved if you cry. So focus on just feeling the grounding, so coming out of the head space now and just grounding in, just allowing what's here. allowing yourself to not know and still be willing to discover something new. What does it feel like to be the Otto who wants to cry? Does that live inside my body, that sadness that wants to express? Just allow that to be. Notice what is lighting up in your field. Notice your throat. Back of the neck. Crown of the head. Just tap into these areas and you can share what you're noticing at any point. This moving out of knowing and the story level to just discovering what are the energies related to this wanting to cry. How are they held in my body, my field?
Yeah, I noticed quite a bit just like shifted of dropping in another level. There's just like a whole nother level of presence now, and I guess, yeah. There was a layer of shame, and so that feels like kind of there, but more than connected to the felt sense of it, rather than than that I'm just like superficially connected to it and then being aware from the mind, like, oh, there is shame, but now actually like tapping into the felt sense.
Great.
Of that.
Something that doesn't want to be seen, something,
Yeah.
and as you ground into that,
And then I'm there's quite a bit going on, so I'm like discerning, a little, but kind of also, I guess trying to just like be aware of it all, but
right. So there's, when we're in the process,
in different parts of the body as well. So
right. Yeah. Okay. So there's the hidden element is always the one looking, and that one is very entangled. So we just go slowly, slowly. We're partly in an endeavor to ground into the resources because we can't do it. And so, that kind of pure alignment to surrender into what's here, not knowing how, that kind of state. Just feel yourself coming into that kind of relationship with what's happening. Is like a humbleness. And that cultivating that state is the most valuable here, because remember, the traumas are so compelling, and the one that's looking at them and experiencing them is entangled with avoiding and controlling and everything else. So, it depends on your capacity grace of not knowing, kind of giving up and surrendering into. And energetically, what's valuable is to inhabit the whole bubble, really take the time to make sure that you're touching like all the pixels, or voxels is a better name, that are in your bubble, the front body, the back body, the head to the feet, the sides to the sides, the whole field, whatever size your field feels like. Just ground into whatever's there. Which is all that head spinning, you know, when you're in that mental, it's like you're re-traumatizing yourself with the thoughts. And as you're grounding into your whole bubble, it's really illuminating that, the head. It's like feel the vibration of the head as part of the whole. What does the head feel like? So you feel what the head feels like, and then you feel what's not that. This helps balance the system. So what's valuable here, Otto, is now you move out of identification, because the one who was identified was separate from you as the head looking. But now, just through your practice and your skill, you're grounding into the whole. And that's kind of illuminating him. He lives in your head. And he has a vibe, and he has a unique signature, you know, so you want to touch him directly, this unique signature that lives in your head. That's it. And all the time I'm saying what I'm saying, there's kind of this curiosity invitation. So what curiosity enables is this grounding into the deepest root of what is this energy in my head. It's like not sitting on the surface with it, but seeping in deeper and deeper into finding him and feeling him and knowing him and meeting him. Yeah, good. Very powerful. So, you know, this is like a fundamental good practice piece, this grounding in. And the other piece we already did, which was very fruitful in the way we were working, was the expanding out. So if you go out to, you will find infinity. If you go in to the deepest deep, you will also find infinity. It's like, in some way, you can actually develop kind of like a default button, if you will, that engages itself of expanding and deepening, so that you're always in this wholeness, as big as your field wants to be, and you're also always in this curiosity. Well, what is the root of this? Where did this come from? Not from the, I want the story and I want to understand it, but just from experience. That's great. So, you know, when that's nice and stable, the next piece I would suggest is noticing what's not that. So find somewhere else in the field, like your chest or your belly or your torso or the whole thing. But when you notice what the head feels like, and then you notice what's not that, it actually, the contrast serves to show you things that you don't notice.
Yeah, I can see this is just a observation, but I can see the 3 Dantian practice. There is just like a curiosity to explore that more.
Yeah.
Now I can connect to them in another way. These 3 different.
Yes. Yeah.
Or so. And I get a little bit more information from all of them in a way, just in the level of tapped in currently. But yeah, there is quite a bit of tension and contraction in the heart space.
Right. Mm-hmm. So anytime you
here, yeah.
Right. Okay. So it's this whole heart, throat, area. So again, we haven't abandoned the story that was just a doorway to help you get to the roots. But if you always stay on the surface, you just keep re-triggering and re-traumatizing. So now you're actually quite nicely resourced. And you're not identified with getting somewhere, you're in your resources. And so this information that can show itself to you now because you're here. Yeah. So here's this chest. So feel the chest and the throat and this whole passage and discern it. You know, this is the other piece for good practice, is that when you're discerning something, you're not leaving somewhere to go and look at it. Or if you are, you know, you need to notice that because that's an entanglement. But the invitation is to maintain this sovereign, expanded state and the depth that you've got, and maintain connection with it. Don't let go of any part of you to discover another part. Because what we're looking at is the relativity between the head and the chest. And so if you left the head and just got in the chest, you wouldn't notice what's going on at the other end of the wormhole, so to speak. So, you know, discernment is kind of like you have to be grounded. Otherwise, you can't discern, because the one who's trying to discern is, if it's got an agenda, you're just going to get entangled.
There was an alarm on my phone. I just missed the last sentence. Something about where entangled.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that if you move out of your connection, if there's any movement to go find something, the one who moved into separation and therefore an agenda. And this is the beginning of this initiation that I feel you're ready for, because you've kind of reached a limit with your practice. Right. And you know, the focus of the practice is now to explore the one who looks, because the pain in the chest and the head have a relationship. So if I leave one to look at the other, I'm not going to notice the relationship. I'm going to get identified. I'm going to separate out of my head and go look at my chest. And that is my abandonment, in this case of the masculine, to go attend to the feminine. But that abandonment of the masculine is just going to keep and perpetuate the dynamic of this relationship. And it turns out with your ex-partner, which is also masculine, feminine there. So she's your teacher. Ooh, your system is saying yes for that one. Great. So you can get a better discernment if you remain grounded and deep in the wholeness. So now what I feel would be valuable for you is to find the eye that is looking. So there's lots of different ways to do that, but just stay grounded in your fields and then become aware of the experiences that are showing as trauma in your chest and your throat. And feel your whole body. Make sure that you're in the back of your body. Notice what that feels like. Without leaving the back, move to the front. Notice the difference between the back body and the front body. Be in both. And you feel your back body again. Feel behind your back body into your bubble. And then from there also feel the front. So it's like an expanding and including. It's never a leaving. And there's this discernment, which is the contrasting. And the less identified you are, the easier this is, because you're tracking your head, your throat, your chest, your fat, your back, your front, your whole bubble, your belly. They're all co-arising. They're all cohabiting. They're all in relationship with each other. So you just let them be there. They all want to tell you something as well. They wait for you to listen. And the best place to listen from is stillness. So at any point, you can contrast into stillness. What does stillness feel like right now in my field? Where is it? Where do I experience it in relation to my body and also in relation to what's in my body with these sensations? And just what you're finding here with stillness, stillness is the door to the origin, is the door to the absolute. So what it will do, however small the door is or wherever it is that you just enter it and ground into that vibe and establish yourself in that vibe wherever it is in relation to your body, so that you know the direct experience in this moment of that stillness. And now this is the strongest contrast, and it will illuminate what's not still. And you want to be in this dynamic engagement with stillness. It's like, don't leave it to go look somewhere else, but rather seep in and be aware of everything else. As if your eyes live in the stillness. It's kind of moving that habit of looking from a position in time, from your trauma self, to cultivating seeing with the eyes of God. Stillness is like introducing the wounded one and the wound to divinity. And at the same time, you're exploring your relationship with God. Is it somewhere? Is it everywhere? Where is the stillness? And what is stillness illuminating for you now?
Yeah, it feels like the last few minutes it has almost been this just like soul retrieval thing. It's just like a lot of like my energy coming back home from dropping
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
to this level. I've been there before, but I've just like sidetracked out of it for some time. I can see now. There's just been a lot of sort of automatic that of just like tuning into to the felt sense. But in turn, there is still, it comes back to the chest, and I can notice that yeah, I was exploring kind of, you know, that part of the well, there was an exploration of that part of the instruction of being aware of the silence or the stillness, while also being in contact with my felt sense. So
Mm-hmm.
because it's almost like I could go into stillness, but then I would, you know, lose the other
Yeah, so
connection.
that's an important piece to the practice, is like I'm either choosing divinity or I'm choosing
Yeah.
existence. But the cohabiting is when they meet each other. What
Yeah.
happens when they meet each other? So imagine that your field is a room, and you want to notice, where is stillness sitting in my room, and where is the chest? So where are they in relationship to each other? Are they close to each other? Are they far apart? Where do you experience them? So you're discerning the field again.
I mean, when I feel into it, but yeah, then again, it is almost like that switch. So the
Okay.
merging is still happening, but it's everywhere, I suppose.
Okay, great. So stillness is everywhere. Is it also in the chest with the
Uh,
sensation there?
Perhaps, let's see.
Yeah, you don't need to know the answer. This is not about answers. It's really the
Yeah,
quest of having a curiosity.
yeah. I guess not.
Right.
Uh,
So the one who answered me before, he's very important because he distracts you from truth
mm,
and you believe him. He's seductive. He knows a lot. He's learned a lot. He's done a lot. Let's honor him. Let's honor him, really. And let's notice what's his vibe, that one who looks and quickly decides what's there. Kind of like the knower, the controller.
mhm.
Yeah. So if you could sense him, just he's here. Let him be here. We want him here. He's welcome here. Yeah. That's it. Great. So, you know, he gets entangled with the situation and then you can't see clearly because you start operating as him,
Yeah,
and his entanglement is kind of like, you know, I know what this is. I already, you know, I get it. You know, that's his entanglement.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even me, even that one answering it like that is a little bit of
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit
I
of
get
coming
it. It's
through.
like it's sneaky. It's so sneaky. Yeah. So he's lurking in the shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
And
started to happen as I became aware of it from in this exploration was, um, yeah, that there was a softening when, if we call him he, like for me, maybe it's more of a it, but like when, yeah, I guess when he, that part was also honored. There was actually a little bit of like
Yeah.
integration happening there, and not from a, solidifying perspective, but from a, yeah, it was softening.
Yeah.
So it's like it has its place, but like, it's not the truth of,
Yeah.
who I.
Yeah. So we loved him. We were friendly to him. We welcomed him. We didn't, that's why he's in the shadows, because, he doesn't know how to find love. So when you become grounded in stillness, you are love. And he can trust that. So he will become illuminated if you have the right curiosity to love. But if you have another process going on, he's just remains hidden. And so it becomes very sneaky. Yeah. So I think the focus of our session today is really about the good practice and being able to choose to let go of the process, and getting entangled in the process, but just return to the good practice. And you're very skilled there. But it's also still sneaky because, there's a part of you right here, maybe with your ex, whatever, that in that story wants an outcome and cannot accept the situation and, cannot complete. It's like stuck in it somehow. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it's an observation also, like that this, like there's been quite a bit of resistance to practice. Well, while this is actually like, this is really strengthening, and same with the last one-on-one, we are the strengthening of a, more curiosity of, and sort of, for lack of a better expression, excitement of these explorations. So it's almost like there's been a sort of confusion of like what is true practice and what is like, just being in the story. So and I've been aware of it, but it's like, let's say when I have been just in, what came to mind was yesterday I went to this guided breathwork thing, at a, studio, a yoga studio. And there, because I wasn't really, fully dropped in and gone and into, sovereignty and my whole field, once material came up, I got just like quite identified with it. And, I left being like, oh, there was some valuable things, but also like, oh, this wasn't really helpful because this like just brought up more stuff. And then I was triggered for quite a long time, and so, but it is very different from what we're doing here. So
Yeah,
I'm just expressing that there is a sort of, I'm just reminding myself basically, like,
that's great. That's a good reminder, because I can tell you every time the shit hits the fan, we forget, and there's no fault in that. It's just how we're set up. And this is like a survival, kind of thing that operates us. And, it doesn't matter how proficient you get, that can become very strong. And we become better at seeing the rhythms, and being able to choose to be curious and choose to come back to the good practice. And it becomes the identity becomes more and more subtle, as we get closer to our truth. So it's a cyclical type of a thing. And it's, I think what's happened has been very valuable, because you've seen the masculine practice and the feminine practice, and, the resistance to practice and the resistance in the group. And, it's kind of like, what's the point? And there's all this identification. And, we're out of our time window, but I really want to invite you to put your hand up again, because you are really close. And the pieces that we did today are fundamental for you. You're very close to this initiation of finding your observer. And this will change everything so profoundly, yeah, because it's the same as like when we found the knower and the controller just now. It's the same as that, but more profound. you know, it's like we're working energetically in a stronger discernment of things. And there's a relationship between the observer and that sense of self. And then the entanglement between them. It's like the witness of the witness. And then there's this dynamic with the body, with the feminine, and the emotions and the trauma that are stuck in there. So there's quite a bit of material in the group. If you feel inspired and curious, feel free to wander around the group and find those pieces. But while you're hot, while you're inspired, maybe practice yourself again with this, what we did today, for a week or so, or however long feels right. And then please invite another session, because then you will be ready for those extra pieces. You know, they are right there. They're right there. But I would really like you to stabilize this practice, this, like it's a grounding practice. It's the, you know, giving up the position and just seeping into the wholeness and down into the depths, and, you know, those things. And from there, only from there, will you find the next initiation of this coming to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
I do feel inspired. Yeah, I'm gonna sit a little bit longer because it's still much happening here, but yeah, I feel like really take that in, and it's not really relevant right now, but it is really curious of what played out after our last session, because it was so clear and activated there, like an upgrade we talked about, and then well, basically I got physically very sick, and then and through that there was a lot of resistance, and then losing the momentum of the practice, and then a lot of stories coming back in again, and that's okay now. Even if it takes, you know, if you want to lose oneself for a month or so, and not fully, but anyway, here I am, and yeah, I do feel motivated.
So it's
the importance of that stabilization.
So, you know, that sounds like a big trauma that we touched, and, you know, perhaps you know, the getting sick, and then that kind of destabilized you and so on.
Yeah,
so,
I was doing, for what it's worth, like after that I had in 2 consecutive days 2 different kind of sessions as well, so there was a bit too much for my system to handle, and I was being guided. I could feel the inner guidance telling me to really take it easy after that, and then I wasn't fully doing that, and that was enough to anyway.
You were in your masculine, I'm going to fix this kind of state, you know. It's like, yeah, okay, so whatever. But I like to hear about that, because I'm dynamically learning about you when you share. When you don't share, I don't know anything. Yeah. So, you know, and plus I would say, even since your last session, I have had some major upgrades in my own system, you know, so hopefully that helps your situation as well as mine. So, you know, it's very dynamic, our journeys. And it's very valuable to me, really, to get feedback in any way. I don't take responsibility, you know, but it sounds like you were hitting overwhelm from our thing, and then you kept pushing. And that's how we learn. That's how we learn, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that particular, it was the adding on with the other sessions, and then a particular event that where I got into trauma and it didn't resolve, and then it became a sort of, and it was enough for my system to in an infection that was already present to
yeah.
spread a little.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
anyway.
Just the body's coming into it shows it's already deep, you know, and the work we're doing will change the dynamics of the physicality, you know, of every part, the bones, the muscles, the hormonal chemistries, etc., etc. So you have to go gentle, because it's almost when you stop the process that the integration can happen. You know, and there's so much that we're blind to when it comes to the body. You know, the body is, you know, it's like being blind to the earth and what the earth is all about and what nature's all about. We really know very little. So, you know, this humbleness is a good motto for continuing, and gentleness when we deal with the feminine. Yeah. So blessings to you, Otto, and your journey, and keep us posted. And thank you for sharing some vulnerable information, and blessings.
Yeah, you too. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. Bye-bye.